I cherish every little thing about my wife, but there was a single moment that shattered the illusion I had built around our life together. It was so abrupt, so absurdly simple, that for a split second, I questioned whether I had imagined it. We were sitting in the car, me in the passenger seat, adjusting the air conditioning, while Madison casually scrolled through her phone, completely at ease. Then, in the most unremarkable way, her thumb slipped. It wasn't dramatic, not the kind of slip that would make someone gasp, just a minor, careless movement. But that small action was enough. Just enough for a message to flash onto the screen. A single text. A name I didn't recognize. Ethan. Can't stop thinking about last night. The words appeared so plainly, so boldly, sitting between us like an open wound. I didn't speak right away. My brain scrambled, running through every Ethan I had ever known. Coworker? Client? An acquaintance from a mutual friend? No. No Ethan. And certainly not one who had a last night to think about with my wife. My pulse quickened. I glanced at her. She was still looking at her phone, typing now, completely unaware of my growing suspicion. And I didn't need to see the words she was sending to know they weren't the kind of messages a married woman should be sending to another man. Something inside me snapped. My body moved before I even realized what I was doing. My hand shot out, snatching the phone from her fingers. Who's Ethan? Madison flinched as if I had just doused her in ice water. Her head snapped toward me, eyes wide, lips slightly parted. And for just a fraction of a second, I saw it, that raw, unmistakable flicker of panic. Then, just as fast, it disappeared, replaced by something else. Annoyance. What the hell? Adam? Give me my phone. She reached for it, but I pulled it away. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it would crack my ribs. Because I knew. I already knew. But I still needed to hear her say it. Who is Ethan? I repeated, my voice too steady, too controlled. She exhaled sharply, rolling her eyes, as if I had accused her of something petty, something ridiculous. Like forgetting to take out the trash. Jesus, Adam, he's just a friend. Can you stop being so dramatic? A friend. A friend who couldn't stop thinking about last night. I turned the phone in my hand and scrolled through the conversation. Madison lunged for it, but I dodged her easily, my eyes locking onto the screen. My vision blurred at the edges, my mind narrowing into a sharp, searing tunnel of rage. Ethan, you looked so good. I wish we had more time. Madison, me too. I miss you already. A cold, sick feeling twisted in my stomach. Already? How long had it been? A few hours? Less? Madison's voice cut through the haze, sharp, defensive, but I couldn't register the words. My ears filled with a dull ringing, drowning everything else out. Then she did something that made my blood run ice cold. She laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not even a guilty one. A mocking laugh. A "you're so unbelievably stupid" laugh. Oh my God, Adam. You're being ridiculous right now. She snatched the phone from my hands, shoving it into her lap. It's not what you think. Seriously, you're being paranoid. Paranoid. That was the word she chose. Not sorry. Not let me explain. Not I can fix this. I stared at her, barely recognizing the woman in front of me. Because in that moment, it wasn't about Ethan anymore. It wasn't just about the messages. It was about her. The way she looked at me, like I was the problem. Like I was the fool for catching her. And then, without breaking eye contact, she reached for the gear shift and slammed the car into drive. We're going home, she said, her voice clipped, firm. I'm not doing this with you right now. And just like that, she thought the conversation was over. But she was wrong. The drive home was suffocating. The air in the car felt thick, heavy, like I was choking on it. Madison's gaze stayed locked on the road, her fingers gripping the steering wheel just a little too tightly. Her jaw clenched in that stubborn way she always did when she thought she was winning an argument. Because that's what this was to her. An argument. Not a confession. Not an apology. Just another petty dispute she planned to bulldoze through until I gave up. But this time, I wasn't going to give up. I stared at her, waiting. Waiting for her to say something, anything, that resembled regret, remorse, guilt. Hell, even a lie that wasn't so careless. But she said nothing. Just reached for the radio, turning the dial like this was any other night. The audacity of it burned through me. Pull over. She ignored me. Madison. My voice came out calm, eerily steady. I said pull over. She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. For what? So you can keep acting crazy? Pull over. Maybe it was the way I said it. Maybe she finally realized I wasn't going to let it go. Either way, she let out an exaggerated sigh and jerked the car into the nearest parking lot, a rundown gas station with flickering lights and a busted ice machine. The moment she threw the car into park, I was already unbuckling my seatbelt, turning to her fully. "Tell me the truth." She scoffed, running a hand through her hair. "I did tell you the truth. He's just a friend." I scoffed, leaning in, my pulse hammering in my ears. "Do I look that gullible to you?" She smirked, shaking her head with an air of amusement. "You're certainly acting like it." My jaw clenched so hard it ached. "Let me see the messages." "No." And just like that, I knew. Not that I hadn't already, but hearing it, flat, unwavering, without even a hint of hesitation, made it undeniable. No excuses, no feigned confusion, no desperate attempt to cover her tracks. Just a simple, resolute refusal. She wasn't even trying to convince me anymore. Something inside me snapped. "Are you serious right now?" I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. "You're not even going to pretend? You're just going to sit there, look me in the eye, and lie?" "I'm not lying." She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms over her chest like a defiant teenager caught sneaking out past curfew. "You're making a big deal out of nothing." "A big deal out of nothing?" My voice rose as frustration surged through me. "So, me finding out that you're talking to another guy behind my back, telling him you miss him already, reading how he can't stop thinking about last night, that's nothing?" She flinched. Just for a second. It was subtle, but I caught it. Then, as if to cover it up, she let out a breath and scoffed. "Adam, it's not. Are you involved with him?" That question made something shift in her. For the first time since this started, her expression flickered. It was fleeting, hesitation, guilt, maybe even fear, but it was there. She swallowed, glancing away, her fingers tapping anxiously against her knee. I waited. The silence stretched between us, sharp and unbearable. Then finally, she muttered under her breath. "You really want to do this here?" I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. "You're unbelievable." "I haven't," she said suddenly, her voice softer now, as if she was trying to convince herself just as much as she was trying to convince me. "It's not like that." I stared at her, my expression unreadable. "And I'm just supposed to believe that?" She lifted her chin. "Yes." And that was it. That was the moment everything clicked. The moment I saw her for what she truly was. Not the woman I thought I knew. Not my wife. Not my best friend. Just a stranger sitting in the driver's seat, lying to my face and expecting me to accept it like I always had. I reached for the door handle and stepped out. "Where are you going?" "Home," I said flatly. "But not with you." I slammed the door shut before she could say another word. I walked. I had no idea where I was going, but I kept walking. The gas station sat on the corner of some dimly lit, rundown street, the air thick with the heavy stillness that comes before a storm. My hands were clenched into fists so tight that my nails dug into my palms, but I barely noticed. My thoughts were racing. Flashes of those messages, the emptiness in Madison's stare, the way she had laughed when I confronted her. Then I heard the sound of a car door slamming. "Oh, for heaven's sake, Adam." Her voice was sharp, cutting through the night like a blade. "Are you seriously just going to storm off like a child?" I didn't stop. Didn't turn around. "Adam." Footsteps. Fast. Slapping against the pavement as she ran after me. A second later, her hand grabbed my arm. "Would you just stop for a second?" I yanked my arm away, spinning to face her. "Why?" "So you can lie to me some more." She let out a frustrated groan, raking a hand through her hair. "Oh my God, you're turning this into something way bigger than it is." I laughed, a hollow, humorless sound. My chest rose and fell rapidly, like I had been running. "Not a big deal." I stepped closer, my voice low, controlled. "You've been sneaking around, talking to another guy behind my back, Madison." She flinched, barely, but I saw it. Then, in true Madison fashion, she rolled her eyes again. "Oh my God, Adam. I'm not sneaking around." "Really?" My arms crossed over my chest. "Then tell me, what exactly happened last night?" She pressed her lips together, her gaze shifting away. I let out another humorless chuckle. "Yeah, that's what I thought." Another groan. She rubbed her temples like I was the one causing her a headache. "You know what? Fine. You really want to know?" "Nothing happened. We talked. We had some drinks. Maybe we flirted a little." "You flirted?" I snapped, stepping even closer. "Are you serious right now?" "It wasn't serious," she shot back, her voice rising. "For crying out loud, Adam. Stop acting like I committed some crime. It was harmless. It meant nothing." Nothing. That word felt like a slap in the face. I stared at her, something breaking inside me, something irreparable. Unbelievable. She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. I don't get why you're making such a big deal out of this. Because you cheated, Madison. The word burned as I said it. You cheated on me, and you don't even have the decency to admit it. Her lips parted slightly, and for just a second, I thought I saw something, an ounce of remorse, a flicker of guilt. But as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. And then she smiled. Not an apologetic smile. Not even a regretful one. A condescending, dismissive smile. A "you're so pathetic" smile. You're so dramatic, she murmured, tilting her head slightly. It was just a little fun. I could barely breathe, barely think. A little fun? She shrugged. You're overreacting. I took a slow step back, staring at her like she was someone I had never met before. And maybe, in a way, she was. Maybe she had been this way for a long time, and I had simply been too blind to see it. A painful thought settled in my mind. I didn't even recognize the person standing in front of me anymore. My voice was barely a whisper as I admitted, I don't even know who you are. She let out a sharp sigh, crossing her arms, her frustration evident. Oh, come on. Don't act like you're some innocent victim here. You're just upset because someone else showed me attention, and you can't handle that. Her words made me freeze. Then, a slow, knowing smirk spread across her face. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You're just insecure. My vision blurred, not from sadness, but from sheer anger. Insecure. Not betrayed. Not devastated. Just insecure. That was all she reduced it to. I took one last look at her, the woman I had loved, the woman I had trusted above all else. And then, without another word, I turned and walked away. This time, she didn't follow. But I didn't go home either. I didn't know exactly where I was headed, only that I couldn't return to that house. Not to the place where the scent of her perfume still clung to the sheets, where her laughter echoed in every corner, where every single room was a painful reminder of how deep this betrayal ran. So I kept walking. The street stretched before me, empty and silent except for the occasional flickering streetlight. My legs carried me forward, past darkened storefronts and deserted sidewalks, until I found myself outside a bar. The kind of place with neon beer signs glowing in the window and a jukebox playing old rock songs loud enough to drown out your own thoughts. Perfect. I stepped inside, barely registering the smell of stale liquor and greasy food. The place was nearly empty, just a few scattered groups, a couple of guys slouched over the bar, and a bartender polishing glasses with a bored expression. I walked straight to the counter and dropped onto a stool. "Wallet B?" the bartender asked, barely glancing up. "Whiskey." My voice sounded strange to me, flat, drained of everything. Within seconds, a glass was in front of me. I downed it without hesitation, welcoming the burn as it scraped down my throat. It didn't help. I signaled for another. I barely noticed when someone sat down beside me. "Rough night?" The voice was smooth, laced with amusement. I turned my head slightly, just enough to see the woman watching me with a raised brow. Mid-30s, blonde, eyes sharp and observant, missing nothing. She stirred a cocktail lazily, her red-painted nails tapping against the glass. I exhaled through my nose. "Something like that." She smirked. "Let me guess. Wife trouble?" A humorless laugh escaped me. "You could say that." She tilted her head, eyes gleaming with something unreadable. "She cheat?" I stiffened. The question caught me off guard. Turning fully toward her, I studied her face. "How the hell did you know that?" She shrugged, taking a slow sip of her drink. "Call it a talent." A bitter chuckle left my lips. "Yeah, she cheated." The words came easier this time, like saying them out loud made it more real, more final. The woman clicked her tongue. "And let me guess, she lied about it. Made you feel like you were the crazy one?" I blinked. For a brief moment, it felt like she knew Madison, like she had somehow been there, listening to every word of that fight. "Yeah," I admitted. "That's exactly what she did." She swirled her drink, smirking. "Textbook." I frowned. "You sound like you've seen this before." She gave a small shrug, her gaze flicking toward the door as if debating whether to say more. Then finally, in a measured tone, she said, "Let's just say I've had my fair share of dealing with lying spouses." Something in the way she spoke, cool, detached, like she was holding back, stirred my curiosity. But before I could press further, she leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "Do you still love her?" A knot tightened in my stomach. "I don't know," I admitted. She hummed. "Then what's stopping you from leaving?" That question made me pause, not because I didn't know the answer, but because I did. And I hated it. Dragging a hand down my face, I muttered, "I just don't get it. Why do people do this? If you're not happy, if you want someone else, why not just leave? Her lips curled into a smile, but there was no warmth in it. Because people like that? She leaned in just a bit closer, her voice turning conspiratorial. They don't want to leave. They just want to see how much they can get away with. A chill ran through me. Because deep down, I knew she was right. Madison wasn't sorry. She wasn't ashamed. She hadn't even bothered to lie well, because she didn't need to. She had already decided I wasn't going anywhere. That realization settled in my chest, heavy and suffocating. And that's when I knew. I had to prove her wrong. I don't remember leaving the bar. One moment, I was sitting there, those words cutting through me like a blade. The next, I was outside again, the cold air sharp against my face as I pulled out my phone. This time, my hands were steady. My mind was clear. If Madison thought I was just going to sit back and accept this, she was dead wrong. I scrolled through my contacts and pressed a name I hadn't dialed in months. It rang only twice before he picked up. Adam. Josh's voice was groggy, thick with sleep. Dude, it's almost midnight. I need a place to crash, I said, skipping any small talk, any explanations. A pause. Then, what happened? She cheated. Silence. Then, low and seething. Are you serious? I let out a slow breath. I wish I wasn't. Get over here. Now. I hung up and started walking. Josh's place was about 15 minutes away, a distance I welcomed. It gave me time to breathe, to try and steady myself. But with every step I took, the anger inside me grew stronger. Now that the initial shock was fading, my mind was piecing things together, the way she had been pulling away over the past few months, the sudden excuses, the strange, quiet moments when she would stare at her phone, smirking at messages I never got to see. I should have noticed it sooner, but I hadn't, because I trusted her. And now, she was probably sitting at home, sipping wine on the couch, completely unbothered, maybe even texting him, telling him about our argument. My hands clenched into fists as I thought about that smirk she had given me, the mocking laugh that made me feel like an idiot for catching her. She had looked me straight in the eye and acted like I was the fool. But I wasn't about to let her win. By the time I reached Josh's place, he was already standing at the door, arms crossed. Tell me everything. So I did. I told him about the text I found, the way she had laughed when I confronted her, how she had acted as if I was the one being unreasonable. As I spoke, I watched his jaw tighten, his expression darken. When I finally finished, he exhaled sharply. That's insane. I nodded. Yeah. She didn't even try to deny it? Oh, she did. Just not very convincingly. Josh shook his head in disbelief. Man, so what's the plan? And that was the real question, wasn't it? Leaving her was no longer up for debate. That was decided. But just walking away felt like letting her off too easily. She thought she could humiliate me and move on, untouched. No. She needed to feel what I was feeling. I leaned back, deep in thought. You still have that friend who works in IT? Josh frowned slightly. Yeah. Why? I met his eyes, my voice steady. I want to know everything. Josh's eyes widened for a moment before a slow grin spread across his face. Oh, he said, nodding. Now that is a damn good idea. Mark was exactly the type of guy you'd want when you needed to uncover someone's secrets. Quiet, unassuming, but dangerously skilled with technology. The kind of guy who could pull up details about what you ate for breakfast 3 years ago if he really wanted to. We met up at a diner the next morning. I hadn't slept, but exhaustion never hit me. Adrenaline was still coursing through me, keeping me sharp. Mark slid into the booth across from Josh and me, setting his coffee down like this was just another routine Saturday morning. Josh wasted no time. Think you can get into Madison's stuff? Mark raised a brow. What exactly are we looking for? Everything, I said. Phone, email, anything suspicious. I want it all. Mark took a slow sip of his coffee, considering. Do you have access to her devices? I clenched my jaw. Yeah. Madison never bothered hiding her passwords from me. Not because she trusted me, but because it never crossed her mind that I would check. She got too comfortable. Mark smirked. Then this'll be easy. I pulled out her laptop and slid it across the table. Start with this. It took Mark less than 20 minutes to break into her accounts. The moment he did, my stomach twisted. Because I wasn't just going to confirm she had been unfaithful, I was about to see exactly how deep this betrayal ran. Mark started with her messages. My heart pounded. And then, there it was. Ethan, I can't wait to see you again. When's he gone? Madison, next weekend. I'll tell him I'm at a work retreat. We'll have the whole place to ourselves. I went completely still. Josh muttered a curse under his breath. She's bringing him to your house? I clenched my teeth. Our house. Mark kept scrolling, and it only got worse. Ethan wasn't the only one. There was another guy, Ryan, and another, Chris. The same flirty, intimate messages. Different names, same patterns. She had been doing this for months. Maybe longer. I leaned back in the booth, staring at the screen. Unbelievable. Josh was gripping his coffee mug so tightly I thought it might shatter. She's a serial cheater. I let out a bitter laugh. And I was only worried about one guy. Mark glanced up. Want me to keep digging? I exhaled through my nose, my mind racing. Then, finally, I shook my head. No, I've seen enough. Josh ran a hand through his hair, seething. So what now? Divorce. I looked at him, then at Mark, then back at the messages. And then I smiled. Oh, I'm gonna divorce her, I said. But first, I'm going to ruin her life. The plan came together quickly. Leaving wasn't enough. I wanted to dismantle the world she had built while making a fool out of me. Mark was more than willing to help. He gathered everything. Texts, emails, call logs, even deleted messages. Every lie, every meeting, every excuse. I had timestamps, screenshots, locations. She thought she was smart. She thought she was careful. She was neither. And the best part? She had no idea she had already lost. That night, I went home. Madison was on the couch, legs tucked up, sipping a glass of wine like nothing had happened. When I walked in, she barely glanced up from her phone. Oh, look who finally decided to stop sulking, she said with a smirk. I almost laughed. She still thought she had the upper hand. I tossed my keys onto the counter and sat across from her, leaning back like I didn't have a care in the world. She raised an eyebrow. What? I smiled. Are you free next weekend? That caught her completely off guard. What? She asked, her expression flickering with something unreadable. I was thinking we should take a trip, I said, tilting my head slightly as I observed her. Just the two of us. A little getaway. For the briefest moment, something flashed in her eyes, panic. But just as quickly, she scoffed, rolling her eyes in exasperation. Oh, you're so desperate, she muttered. I shrugged, unfazed. Come on, let's do something fun. Just a weekend away. No work, no distractions, just you and me. She let out a dramatic sigh, shaking her head. Adam, I already told you. I have a work retreat next weekend. I smiled, my expression unwavering. Oh, right. Reaching into my pocket, I pulled out my phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned the screen toward her. Madison, next weekend, I said, tapping the screen lightly. You told him you'd be at a work retreat, so we'll have the whole place to ourselves. The change in her demeanor was instant. Her body stiffened, her gaze locked onto the screen, lips parting just slightly. Go on, I encouraged. Tell me more about your work retreat. Her breath hitched, almost imperceptibly, but I noticed. Then, as if scrambling to regain control, she let out a forced laugh, sharp and artificial. Oh my God, Adam, she scoffed. Are you spying on me now? I kept my smile. Spying? No. Catching you? Absolutely. She rolled her eyes again, but the confidence in her expression was beginning to crack. This is ridiculous. I hummed in response, scrolling through my phone again. Which part? The fact that I know about Ethan? Or that I also know about Ryan? And Chris? Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. I watched her closely, the way her fingers tightened around the stem of her wine glass, the way her jaw clenched. Then, without warning, she hurled the glass across the room. It shattered against the wall, dark red liquid streaking down the paint like something out of a crime scene. I can't believe you went through my stuff, she screamed, leaping to her feet. I remained seated, my tone calm, almost amused. And I can't believe you're a lying, cheating disgrace. Her face twisted with fury. You had no right. I stood then, my presence towering over her. No right? I echoed, my voice sharp. No right to uncover the fact that my own wife has been sneaking around behind my back? Listen to yourself. She scoffed, arms crossing over her chest. You're so dramatic. I chuckled, shaking my head. Think whatever you want. I stepped forward, my voice dipping lower. Because I want you to believe that you're still in control, Madison. I want you to feel safe. Leaning in, I whispered. Because when everything crumbles around you, I want to see the exact moment you realize you've lost. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. No sarcastic retort. No condescending smirk. No quick, lazy lie to throw at me. Just raw, unfiltered panic flickering behind her gaze. I let the silence stretch, watching as the weight of reality settled over her. She was processing, feeling the full gravity of what was about to unfold. Then, finally, she scoffed, rolling her eyes as if she were nothing more than an annoyed teenager. So what? You found some texts? Big deal. I grinned. Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea. My voice was smooth, confident. I didn't just find texts. Her nostrils flared. You're bluffing. I pulled up another file on my phone and tapped the screen. The audio played loud and clear. Ethan's voice rang out first. God, last night was amazing. I swear, if I have to hear about your husband one more time. Then hers, unmistakably softer. Shut up. He has no idea. I hit pause. She froze. Tilting my head slightly, I murmured, Go ahead. Tell me again that I'm bluffing. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Taking a slow step forward, I continued. Here's the thing, Madison. I know about every single guy. I know how long it's been happening. I know about the fake work trips, the sudden late nights, the so-called girls' nights that never actually existed. Another swipe of my screen, and I pulled up the next file, a detailed spreadsheet, neatly organized. Chris, 4 times. Ethan, too many to count. Ryan, you barely lasted a month with him. I let out a low chuckle, shaking my head. You really thought you were untouchable, didn't you? Her expression twisted into something wild, something desperate. You're insane. No, Madison, I said softly, taking another step toward her. I'm just done being your fool. Her breathing had turned uneven, hands trembling at her sides. And yet, even now, that defiance still burned in her eyes. Then, suddenly, she changed tactics. Okay, she said, forcing her voice into something calm, almost reasonable. You caught me. I messed up. But we can fix this. I laughed. Actually laughed. Fix this. She nodded quickly, stepping toward me now. Her whole posture shifted, anger melting away, replaced with something carefully controlled. Desperation. Adam, listen, she said, her voice dipping into that soft, saccharine tone she always used when she wanted to manipulate me. We've been together for years. Are you really going to throw all of that away over this? I raised a brow. Oh, now it's just this? Just a small mistake, right? She forced a weak, pitiful smile. As she uttered the words, You know I love you. I recognized it for what it was, her final move, her last-ditch effort to regain control. I exhaled slowly, my eyes fixed on her. Then I smiled. You love me, I repeated, testing the weight of the words. She nodded, quick and eager. Of course. Good, I said, pulling up another document on my phone. Then you'll love this. I turned the screen toward her, watching as her expression shifted from hope to horror. The color drained from her face as she realized what she was looking at, divorce papers. Already drafted, already signed, and officially filed this morning. Her breath hitched. What is this? I grinned wider. Your freedom. With shaking hands, she snatched the phone from me, her fingers swiping frantically across the screen. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious. I plucked the phone back and slipped it into my pocket. And just so you know, I don't need your signature. The infidelity clause takes care of that for me. Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but then it snapped shut. Her entire body went rigid as the reality of the situation settled in. She struggled to process what was happening, her mind racing but unable to find a way out. I leaned in close, lowering my voice to a whisper. I hope Ethan has a spare room, I murmured. Because as of Monday, you won't have a home. Her eyes widened with panic. And before you even think about running to your boyfriends for help, I added with a smirk. I've already taken care of that. Every text, every call log, every little secret. You weren't nearly as discreet as you thought. They all know about each other now. Her body tensed as if the weight of my words had physically struck her. She stumbled back, shaking her head in disbelief. You didn't. I shrugged. Oh, but I did. And just like that, Madison finally broke. She let out a piercing scream and, in a blind rage, swept everything off the coffee table. Glass shattered, papers scattered, wine splashed across the floor. But I didn't even flinch. I had already turned away, already walking upstairs. Because I had won. As I climbed the steps, her screams followed me, laced with pure desperation. I could hear her pacing, her breaths quick and erratic, whispering no, 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 as if saying it enough times could somehow undo the damage. But it was too late. The game was over. In the bedroom, my bedroom now, I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet. I didn't need much, just enough to last me a few days while I figured out my next move. But the house? That was staying mine. Downstairs, her voice rose and fell in frantic bursts as she tried to salvage what remained of her carefully constructed world. She was calling Ethan. Maybe Ryan. Possibly Chris. Scrambling for help, trying to cling to something, anything. I let her. I took my time packing, making sure she had plenty of moments to sit in the mess she had made. Then footsteps. Fast. A second later, she appeared in the doorway, breathless and wild. Her face was flushed, her hair a tangled mess from running her hands through it in frustration. For the first time since this all started, she looked completely unhinged. "You ruined my life," she shrieked. I barely spared her a glance as I zipped my bag shut. "No, Madison," I said calmly. "You did that." She sucked in a ragged breath, fist clenched tight at her sides. "You don't understand. I had everything under control." I actually laughed. A real, genuine laugh. "Oh my God. You're actually insane." Her nostrils flared. "I kept them separate. I had rules." "And then she cut herself off with a frustrated groan, gripping her hair. "You exposed me. Like I was some. A liar." I finished for her. A cheater? A pathetic excuse for a wife. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to something cold and sharp. "Because that's exactly what you are." Her entire body vibrated with anger. "You're just bitter," she spat. "You couldn't keep me satisfied, so I had to go somewhere else." I snorted. "Is that what you're telling yourself to sleep at night?" Her lips curled into a smirk, though her breathing was still uneven. "I don't have to tell myself anything. I can get another man tomorrow. Someone better." I leaned in, smiling. "Then why are you still here?" Her smirk vanished. Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I watched as the truth settled in, as the realization hit her like a slow-moving wrecking ball. She had no one. The men she thought loved her? Gone. The marriage she thought she controlled? Over. The house she believed was hers? No longer. Her entire world had crumbled around her in the span of a single night. And she knew it. Her lower lip trembled, her fists tightening at her sides. She opened her mouth, probably to lash out, to say something cruel, something meant to wound me. But I didn't care anymore. I just smiled. "You're pathetic," I said simply. "And I'm done wasting another second on you." Then I grabbed my bag and walked out. She didn't follow me. The moment I stepped outside, the cold air hit my face, crisp and refreshing. It felt different, cleaner, lighter, like I had just shrugged off a crushing weight I had been carrying for far too long. Because I had. I walked to my car, tossed my bag in the back seat, and slid behind the wheel. For a brief second, I waited to feel something: anger, regret, maybe even a trace of sadness. But there was nothing. Only peace. Inside, Madison was probably still standing there, frozen in shock, trying to process how everything had fallen apart so fast. I smirked. She had been warned. She had laughed in my face, dismissed me like I was nothing, assumed I was weak, incapable of fighting back. And now? She was alone. No lovers. No security. No backup plan. I started the car. My phone buzzed on the dashboard, but I didn't need to look. I already knew who it was. Madison. Her last, desperate attempt. I let it ring. Then, at the very last second, I picked up. Silence. Then, finally, her voice, soft, trembling, desperate. "Adam." I said nothing. She sniffled. Please, I didn't mean." Her voice trembled, but before she could say more, I ended the call. Click. Without hesitation, I blocked her number and erased every message, ensuring there was nothing left to remind me of the past. Without a second glance at the house we had once called home, I started the car and merged onto the road. As the distance between me and that chapter of my life grew, a realization settled over me. After so many years, I was truly free.